James Newbury, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Angus. Glad to be here.
Thanks, mate. I want to start actually by taking you back a little bit.
Sure.
So, 2019,
Yeah.
CrossFit Games, Ringer 1.
Ring of One. Mate, that's burned into my soul.
It's burned into my memory because I think that was the first actual games that I watched. Mate, that event, 34 seconds in, you're 30 calories done on an assault bike. You're leading Matt Fraser, Noah Olsen, Saxon Panchik. You still have 60 toes to rings and another 30 cals split up over the next rounds. What's going through your mind at that point?
Well, it's a funny one because out of the 4 CrossFit Games that I competed at, that's the one thing that people bring up on a regular basis. And it's only because it's my only event win ever. I've come second, I've come third. Only event win ever, but leading into that workout is the only time I've ever listened to music before the event because I was in such a good mindset at the time. I was so relaxed. I thought the worst I can do here is top 10. So as soon as all that pressure of, maybe bottom 10 or middle of the pack or 20 plus is out of your mind, you start to actually become more yourself. And that's where I usually kick into gear and start having a good time. If I'm having a good time, then I'm most deadly there. And I remember when that event got released, we'd done a training camp in Montreal for the last 2 months leading into that with Michelle Laton, Patrick Vellner, Laura Horvath, Sam Cornier. And we did a lot of training around that specific style of workout. Lots of high lactate bike intervals. A lot of toes to bar. We didn't really do any toes to rings, but I know that, any day of the week I could probably punch out 120.
It's a simple movement.
Simple movement, much easier than toes to bar. And I remember getting a call so vividly from Michelle Laton, who was upstairs after the announcement of the workout. And she said, "Hey, James, you just got to send it." And I was like, yes. I was like, finally, someone never have I been in a position to send a workout at the CrossFit Games. And she just said, you just got to send it. She goes, and she even said, and this made me feel even better about the situation. She said, don't worry about Ringer 2. She goes, I don't care if you come last. And I was like, oh, great. She was like, just go for it and just try and win the first one. I was like, all right. She goes, you can win this one. I was like, sick. That was the biggest thing that Michelle did for me. She told me that I could win things and could do well at things. I think I hadn't really heard that from a coach's perspective before. Like, people have told me that I was good at things and that gave me confidence. But leading into the game, she said, look, you're toing and froing with Pat Vellner, 50-50 on workouts. Like, for this whole camp, there's no reason why you can't be like podium or top 4, top 5. And I was like, oh, cool. That kind of made sense in my mind. And I thought, didn't even think of that before. So leading into that workout, I was listening to some music. I was actually listening to Zombie and actually a remake of it by Bad Wolves. And I was like trying to fire up for this workout. And all I thought in my head was, every time I've done 50 cals for time on the assault bike or repeated efforts of 50 cals for time, it's always stuck in my mind that doing it at 100% maximal effort felt better than doing it at 90, 95% because it lasts a third longer and just hurts for longer at similar workload. So I thought to myself, far out, I'm just going to send it from the start. I'm going to bust this out in like 30 seconds or less and see how that pans out. And as soon as I got the 30 cals done, I was like, I feel great. Had like the excruciating leg burn hadn't kicked in yet, which is good because the training had been so specific to that stuff. Jumped up on the rings and knew I was going to be able to hold on for that. It was just a matter of maintaining a nice smooth movement. So it was like really hard, smooth movement, really hard, smooth movement. And after I got off the 30 rings, I was like, yeah, I'm going to smoke this. That was kind of how I felt. Yeah, I was like, as soon as I jumped up and I was like, yeah, I feel great. And I was so far ahead. I was like, yeah, I'll be able to hold on. Matt did catch up a lot more than I expected him to catch up, but I still felt comfy. Like, I remember jumping on for the 20 cows. I was like, this is the make or break round. It wasn't the 30 that I just did. It was the 20 cows that I'm doing now. Has to be at least 90% intensity of what I just did. So I jumped on and tried tried to do that, and because most people jumped on for the second set of the 20 cows, and I watched them do it, they just lost the plot. Anyone who sent the 30 didn't send the 20, and if you jump on and send the 30, you best believe you must send the 20.
You got to back it up.
If you don't, you've literally just hurt yourself for no reason. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to commit to this, and I'm not going to worry about workout 2. And even if I wanted to worry about workout 2, I physically could not worry about workout 2 because I was so in the hole at that point. So 30 cows was done. My goal was to get to the 20 cows, send the 20 cows, and I knew after that I would be fine. So that 20 cow effort in the second round was the workout. That was all that was in my head. And
that's the hump you had to get over.
Yeah. That was the intense part of the workout that I had to do the thing I didn't really want to do, and that's send the 20 cows. So, because by that time, lactate had set in, your heart rate was high already, you know, the 30 cows had caught up to you a bit, and you were just like, you must hold a good pace. So, yeah, by that point in time, once I jumped off the 20 cows, I was like, yeah, I got this in the bag.
Yeah, it's definitely nothing worse than getting to the end of one of those workouts and being like, oh, I paced too much.
Yeah.
Like it's 4-minute workout, 3-minute workout, like it's just full send.
Yeah.
And you went full send.
Yeah, yeah. And to be honest, the 30 cows at the start, I think I've done a similar effort to that in training and did it about 8 seconds faster. So I think I had a few percent still in the tank there, but I was just like, if I can just get to that intensity that I really don't want to hold and hold it more than uncomfortable, like quite uncomfortable, hold that, but not obliterate it like this is the only thing I had to do. It was like 98%, 97%. So that was the key. Hold a very average pace for the whole thing. And yeah, it felt pretty good. But again, it was like $3,500 USD. It was a win at the CrossFit Games. It was the final day of CrossFit Games. I knew I was, worst case scenario, coming 10th at the Games, end up finishing better, which is good. But you also got to look at it from the perspective of, okay, if I pace this and I get 7th or 6th, and then I pace the next one and I get 7th or 8th, what's my average? Whereas if I go full send, get a win or a number 2, and then get an 8th and or a 9th in the next one, because Will Morad was a bit injured, so he wasn't going to do too well in the next one anyway.
Do you end up with more points?
Do I end up with more points? No, I'd rather get a win on the board and have a good memory. I remember that being one of the biggest things that I learned from my previous years was having a win or having a top 3 placing, and then the rest can be, 20s or late 15, like late teens. At least I walk away from the weekend with a really good win that I can remember forever, or I could sit and come 18th, 19th through 25 in every event. What's there to look back on? What did I do well in? Kind of average across the board. I'd rather get a win come last, than do average across everything.
And then also push yourself in that moment as well, because there's nothing like Ringer 2, for those who don't know, was directly after, like 5 minutes or something.
Yeah.
So there's very little recovery time. And to go that hard initially and then have to back it up again, like you put yourself in the hole and then you've got to go, okay.
Yeah.
Can we come back and fight again?
100%. And I remember finishing that workout, taking the win, thinking to myself, yes, did it, thank God. And then looking across at Matt Fraser, and he was just like, you were supposed to come between me and Noah. And I was like, not today, buddy.
Yeah.
And then trying my hardest to compose myself. Like I just tried to, in my mind, okay, as soon as that finished, I think I enjoyed the moment for 10 seconds and then thought, I've got another workout to do and I'm not good. Really not good.
You looked like a gunshot victim when you were signing the sheet. You were like completely wrecked.
Yeah.
And then it was amazing to watch actually, because you were out and then within 10 seconds you'd crawled over, you'd grabbed your water, you're on your feet, and then you're lining up for the next event.
I was not good. I remember, I vividly remember going to the start line of Ringer 2, and when the beep sounded, I took a deep breath and I thought, just compose yourself and just stay focused. That's what I thought in my head. Just stay focused, compose yourself. It's one workout. You'll be right.
Just don't redline.
Don't redline. Be smooth. and just, get a 7th on the board or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Try and aim for somewhere there. Beat a couple of people. And then I went to jog. As soon as the beep went, it's like, stand by, beep. And I went to jog. I jogged like 2 steps and stopped and started walking. And I was like, I can't, just couldn't move. And then I got to start the burpees. And after like the second set of burpees, I went down to the ground and put my chest on the floor and just put my arms down by my side. I looked at my judge, and my judge was just smirking at me, just like, dude, you are wrecked. This is hilarious to watch. And I thought to myself, well, it is what it is. It's like I was kind of like cool with it by that point.
It was a great moment.
Yeah, it was great.
It was a great moment.
It was actually the highlight of my entire, competing career, taking a win.
You mentioned that one of your coaches sort of gave you that bit of support that you needed at the beginning to just go full send, and sounds like that's not something that you've had, that kind of like just blind faith in your ability to do something.
Yeah.
From either your coaching staff or from your support network in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very much a pacer. I'm very much like stick to the plan, pace it, and you will, like a very Rich Froning-esque style, like pace it well, and you'll come out the other end with a really good placing, and you won't have dug yourself a hole from it. That's the key, because
a bit conservative.
You be conservative enough to get a good place, but conservative enough to maintain your physiology the way you need it for later events, so you don't take a win and then take a last. That's always been the way that I've operated. It's like, be consistent across the whole weekend. At that point in time, we were, there was 2 events to go. So there was the Ringer 1, Ringer 2, and then a final event. So I've never actually been told to send a workout at any stage of competition. I think maybe one other time. And it was very uncommon for me to have a crack at doing that, but it just kind of proved to me that maybe on other occasions I had more in the tank. And I tested this again and completely obliterated myself and failed horribly. But sometimes you just got to roll the dice. So when Michelle said, I looked back and I thought, when has Michelle given me a piece of this type of advice that, fired me up enough to, roll the dice on more events? And that was before the CrossFit Games started. I kind of just thought, happy to be here, been here 16, 17, 18. If I do well in 19, great. If I don't, it's fine. Like, I've already been here and done it. So when she said, you have the ability to do really, really well, you're a good runner, 50% of the workouts are running based or some type of running element. All you have to do is, back yourself. When you feel like you're ready to go a bit earlier, because you've got the fitness to back it up, and you don't need to pace so hard. You can push the boundaries a bit more.
Go a little harder.
You go a little harder. And I just did that, kept doing that all weekend. Body bounced back really well from every event. No worse than before, maybe taking the extra 5 seconds, but instead I just kind of like, I'm going to be ready in 6 or 7 seconds. I'm just going to go now. So I kept doing that a lot. Just going to go and see how I go. And then it might be before a handstand walk and you do it and you're just like, shit, I just beat 3 or 4 people by 6 or 7 seconds. It's like, if I didn't take that risk, I'd be sitting in 5th place, not 2nd or 1st place. So when she said send it, I was like, thank you. That's like all I needed, send it. Great. That's what I want to do. So yeah, it was, I think sometimes all you need, you might have all the tools, but all you need is a little bit of external confidence just to be just jabbed into you, just to take a risk, because most people are so risk adverse because you've got a fear of failing. You got a fear of not doing well. And I think that's what hung me up in 16 and 17 was getting to the games and just like blowing it. Not only that, but also I wasn't as well, physically prepared as what I needed to be, but it just takes time. Sometimes, people come into the games physically prepared after 1 year of training or 2 years of training, which is very, very, very rare. It's like unheard of, except for, like the likes of Tia and Matt. They had trained in other sports, but they adapted very quickly. Whereas for me, it took me 3-4 years to mature into a CrossFit Games athlete, to fill some gaps that needed to be filled, but then also hone my strengths that had the ability to give me that knockout killer punch that you needed to get a 2nd or a 1st place or a top 3.
That's also a lot of the physical aspects, right? And as you say, the athletes that got there faster were compounding off previous conditioning and previous training.
100%.
But the mindset, I think what you sort of mentioned before in terms of that self-doubt is so much of the puzzle that is invisible. And you can see someone's conditioning, you can see the effort they put in, you can see how fit they are. And in their mind, they can have full-blown imposter syndrome, self-doubt, limiting beliefs, preventing them from really getting to the level that they're capable of. And the coaches have seen them push to that level in training because there's nothing on the line. It's just them and their gym and their friends and their community. And then they get onto the performance to the stage floor and they're at 80%. And the coach is going, what's going on?
Yeah.
And that little push, Michelle, was it?
Michelle.
The little push that Michelle gave you almost unlocks that extra 20%. It just silences that inner doubt.
Yeah.
And while we all want to get to that stage where it's just us zen in the moment, being able to perform at our best, sometimes we need that little external push.
Yeah, and also getting that external push and believing it.
Right.
Like, some people can tell you, like, I used to hear all the time from my close friends who didn't know much about it, you're going to kill it, you're going to do great. Like, oh, yeah, sure.
You're just saying that.
You're just saying that. You want to try and
that's your role as my friend, and I thank you for it, but
Yeah.
it's not, it doesn't cut through.
But when Michelle said things, you took them to heart. Like, you really like, oh, okay, cool. Because she would say them in a way that she cared so much about her athletes. And you could tell that she cared so much that when she said things, she wasn't just saying it for the hell of saying it. She said it because she believed it. It was like, whoa, cool. So that kind of fired you up too. So it's telling you, helping you understand or building some confidence, but then really believing the confidence. That is a huge game changer. Everyone on the CrossFit Games competition floor have great VO2s, probably all very close to each other. They all have great lactic threshold, all probably very close to each other. They all have biases around limb lengths and heights and range of movement and all that type of stuff. And they're all pretty close. When you get to that tipping point, it's not having any drastic holes, but then it's also having a mindset that allows you to rise above everybody else. If you've got a mindset that puts you into a position that gives you the killer instinct to take an event win when it's on offer and execute well and have the confidence to know that you can do it. And then sometimes it's just like, man, you just might have to roll the dice and see how you go. Might blow up in your face or you might get an event win.
And some days you're like, even like I'm by no means at your level, but you work out some days and you notice you've got an extra, few seconds per round in a workout or a few kilos on the bar and you think like, God, that felt light today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just how the body feels.
Yeah. 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 Hydration, sleep, mood arousal levels, what are your electrolytes like? There's so many things that you try and think about, but it's just like sometimes you can obliterate all of that just by having a sweet conversation with someone that, you respect. That's it. Simple. Sometimes.
How'd you go in the Open this year?
Good question. I think in Australia, I was like 23rd, maybe 23rd. It's like, actually, to be honest, it's actually pretty much on par with all my Opens. Like even when I was training full time, always sit around. Like I think I had one Open where I placed 4th. But I've never been like a high placer in the Open. Like I think the year that, I had a flawless run at Regionals 2018, I think I placed 23rd in the Open too. I think I was around about 23, 22, something like that. But I had a terrible first workout in 2018. But yeah, I was around there. But again, I was training double days, 5 days a week. There was like 10 to 12 sessions a week, depending if we did extra pull sessions or track sessions on top of our gym workouts, which we would do. These days, it's more like 4 sessions a week, 5 sessions a week maybe. So I'm not upset about that. All the skills are still there. VO2's probably dropped a bit, like threshold dropped a bit, but I can still pretty much do everything the way I could do it, just not for as long.
Well, you are one of probably the most experienced athletes who's still actively competing.
Yeah. I think there's probably, Rich is not competing anymore, but he started like in 2010. I started in 2011. Yeah, so yeah, I've been doing it a while. Yeah, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like I've been doing it like 6 years, 5 years. But yeah, it's been more like 13.
What do you think of the progression of CrossFit over the last few years and like how the sport has changed?
There are some absolute freaks coming through that have insane capacity, strength across the board. So it's like any fledgling sport where you think where you are is good, and then you get the next generation come through and you're like, oh man, we'll get smoked now. But there are things that it also very much depends on how the weekends are programmed. Like, is the volume high, volume low? Is it highly skilled? Is it outdoors? Is it pull work? Is it, a lot of the guys that excel in the gym typically don't excel on a triathlon style workout. If they do, they're, in my opinion, better, well-rounded. But I think the progression for the most part, people coming through, they're turning out to be good lifters, good runners. Back in the day, that wasn't the case. It was like, if you're a good lifter, you probably weren't a good runner. If you're a good runner, you weren't a good lifter. These days, you've got guys that are running, 18-minute 5Ks, like 18 flat or just over 18 minutes, and still back squatting 235 to 240 kilos. It's just like, whoa.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I think that you're getting a group of people that have either, Bailey Martin. You look at him, he's been doing it since he was like 13 years old or something like that, same as Jay. 13 years old, junior, and now he's come through the ranks and he's excelling in pretty much everything. Like, they're both great runners, both proved it at the CrossFit Games. They're both great lifters, proved it at CrossFit Games. You're just getting better, well-rounded athletes and increasing numbers, year on year. So you can only imagine what it looked like in 10 years' time. We said this 10 years ago. Imagine what it looked like in 2020. And it's kind of sticking to that trajectory. People are getting so much better. And you know what? Like, I'm not young, but I'm not like super old. Like, I'm 33 now. Part of me, I think it's just probably the competitor. Sometimes just wants to like put everything back on hold and just be like, you know what? I'm just going to train for 12 months and see how good I could get again. But priorities, right? Priorities. At some point, you have to like put priorities in alignment and see what else fills your bucket. And so many years, I was just like, it filled my bucket for a lot of years, and then it just got to the point where it wasn't filling the bucket as much. So I was like, other things are filling my bucket. Now I'm going to focus on them and dabble in competing and get my fix from time to time, which is where team kind of steps into the mix. Putting together a team with my buddies that I've known for been competing with Khan for 11 years, been competing with Kara since 2012. Now we're in a team, 2024, and I first stepped on the floor with Kara in 2012. That was 12 years ago. It's crazy. So to be now doing the team together as the old dogs is like kind of fun, and it's exciting, and it's no pressure. It's just getting out, putting fitness on display, using the fitness for a team effort, and creating some sick memories. That's kind of like where I'm sitting at the minute, which I'm really enjoying.
Yeah, taking that pressure off and going for the fun and for the experience more than going for the medals and adoration. And
that's what I did in 2019, to be honest. Like, in 2019, I went for the fun, and it turned out to be my best year ever. Yeah, and it's just like you can full send stuff and you're willing and able to do it because you don't have the pressure like, this is my career, I must do well, I can't muck up, this is how I get paid, this is what keeps me going. If I don't do well, like, what happens? Like, disaster. Whereas 2019, I was like, so this year is kind of like, we'll just make it work and have fun.
It's crazy how like both those mindsets can produce elite performance.
Yeah.
You can have people that are just like, I just do this for fun, and like, this is my thing and I enjoy it and I don't care and I'm the number one in the world and have been forever.
Yeah.
And then you have someone who's like, I'm meticulous and this is my business, this is my profession, and I do everything, measurements and metrics all the way through, and they're also an elite performer. It's like both can work. You kind of have to figure out what's right for you and what's right for you in which moment as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But like the point you raised about, the sort of more well-rounded athletes coming through, I think is really quite evident in the way in which the whole competitive sports landscape is moving. You've got all these new events popping up, high rocks, turf games. It almost feels like every other weekend or month there's like something happening at a park or a stadium. Mm-hmm. And they're all functional based that kind of spawned out of CrossFit.
Yeah.
Do you think these are pulling people away from CrossFit? Like, is CrossFit dying as a result of this, or is this reinforcing the skill base that is still, like, CrossFit is obviously the top of the pile of all these events? Are people using these other events as kind of training grounds to enhance their skill sets on the way to the games?
I think some people, where High Rocks, DecaFit, Turf Games all fit into the CrossFit scene, I guess, is the entry level. The entry level CrossFitters now have a platform where they can put their previous expertise, which is typically a running aspect, into play and not have to deal with handstand and walking, ring muscle ups. It's a really good entry point to compete in something that is broad and general, whereas the CrossFit comps these days are very much over programmed. They're too intense. They're too high in volume, and I think it is just a really good starting ground for people that just, have tried some functional movement, have a bit of running background, want to jump in and get something done. And then they see it as like, cool, I can actually get really good at this. And this is a fledgling sport. It's brand new. I'm already decent, and then just roll with it. I think the CrossFitters typically have never been like, super into running. It's not really been about that. You've got some people that come from swimming backgrounds, but that's about it. You don't have any people from a running background jumping into CrossFit and then doing well at the games. It's usually a weightlifting aspect or a swimming aspect, typically, or gymnastics. But I really do think that it just is a really good gen pop place to start. And then they'll probably end up finding themselves in a CrossFit gym, most likely.
Right.
Or if they can get it off the ground to that extent, maybe a High Rocks gym where they start actually doing High Rocks specific training for High Rocks people that want to train High Rocks, but kind of like CrossFit. You go to a CrossFit gym because you might want to do a local comp, or you might want to train for regionals, but you're also, along the process of doing that, you're getting the physique and the body that you want and getting healthier at the same time, whilst delving into a community that is like-minded. Same thing with High Rocks. You might get gyms that are popping up that are High Rocks specific. Come to High Rocks, come to a couple of competitions, like get your competition fix. It's, you've left school, you don't do any like high school sport anymore, but you can still be competitive doing High Rocks, and along the way you're going to get fit, healthy, get the body that you want to get, and you can also throw down a bit and do the things that you enjoy doing, which is, simple stationary rowing, running, ski erg, sled pushes, walking lunges.
Those foundation movements.
You can do all these things and compete and have a good time and get the physique you want. Like, it's the same type of appeal as CrossFit was. It's like, come train here for health and fitness, and if you want to compete, you can. Same thing for High Rocks. I think that's going to be intriguing for people.
And the CrossFit gyms as well, like, whenever there's a comp that's on, right, like Turf Games is coming up, or there's a High Rocks happening soon, like all the CrossFit gyms run High Rocks programming.
Yeah.
They do extra running.
Yeah.
They'll look at the workouts coming up, and then they'll scale them. So it's interesting. CrossFit's kind of got that functional workout venue locked down.
Yeah.
And I see what you're saying about these other sort of, the potential for these other sort of more directly disciplined focused venues popping up. But when you've got all the equipment, you've got all the coaches, you've got, probably a handful of people at your CrossFit gym, local or not, that are competing in this event coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's it. I think it's just appealing for people to have a crack at something that is, more towards their bias. Some people love long workouts, and in a long workout for CrossFit, it's anything 25 minutes plus.
Mm-hmm.
And if some people are more biased towards those endurance style things, but they love CrossFit, High Rocks is a great little platform for you to go and get your fix and, potentially do well in something. That's kind of where I see it. It's like a good entry to CrossFit, but its own sport in and of itself. It's like like I've done 2 races, loved them, absolutely loved them. Had a blast. Like running, simple movements, super fun.
I mean, the sim that we did last year was good, and I'm definitely considering doing one this year.
100%. Yeah, I think I've signed up for 4 races this year.
Just all in.
Yeah, just might as well. They're fun.
So with that, obviously, I feel like High Rocks is kind of the sort of, it's more in line with the hybrid athlete approach that we're seeing become very popular, because people are kind of sick of just, the gym bro mentality. And then there's obviously a huge endurance sport following with Ironman and triathlons and the like, but everyone also wants to look a little bit more muscular and jacked, and at least on the male side. And so as someone who has this very broad range of disciplines that you compete in, from CrossFit, high rocks, triathlons, and Ironman. Like, how do you balance training, competing, and maintaining for a bunch of different fitness types?
To be honest, I think it comes down to my mindset. I've been asked this question a fair few times, and it's like, oh, I just do all the things, but I'd only do all the things if I wanted to do all the things, and that otherwise you wouldn't do them.
Yeah.
So I think it comes down to, I like running, I like lifting weights, I like doing a bit of bodybuilding and getting a bit jacked, I like swimming, I don't know why I like those things, but I enjoy them. Maybe I've got distant memories of having a good experience swimming with someone who I really enjoyed, or a distant memory of someone who I enjoyed running with or lifting weights with, and I've just got little fond background memories of all these different types of things that I tried, and maybe for somebody else, they had a terrible experience in the pool at one point, so they never want to swim, or they went for a run and the person who they ran with kept trying to run at a faster pace and they just had a bad experience and now they don't want to run ever again, and they don't know why, but there's a distant memory that was not good. All of the things that I've done, apart from maybe what haven't I had a good experience doing? No, there's not really any sport that I've done that I'm just like, I'd hate to go do that again. Everything has been pretty good. So I think it's just my mindset towards like, yeah, I'll have a crack at that and I'll enjoy my time. And I've also understood that if I go for a swim, it's not going to ruin my strength gains. And if I go and do a powerlifting comp, I'm not going to be, my VO2 is not going to drop dramatically. Like, that hasn't been the experience for me, maybe different experience for other people. But I think allowing myself to have an open mind to try new things has only resulted in a positive outcome for myself. I've enjoyed the experience. I've had a good time. I've done reasonably well in competition. And so that kind of just fires me up to do more of that. And again, it's this very simple answer to a complex question, and it probably something that we could dive deeper into. But if you want to be strong and fitness as in, cardiovascularly fit and endurant, you could be obviously a bias towards, you could do, say, 5 endurance sessions a week and 3 weightlifting sessions, and you're probably slightly biased towards endurance. Or you could mix it the other way. It just really depends on what you're getting after at the time. And I've always just chopped and changed between the two. Sometimes I just want to get strong and I enjoy going to the gym, getting strong. And sometimes I enjoy doing just simple CrossFit every day and just getting a bit of both. And then other times I just want to get good at running and I'll do a bit of weights when I feel like it. Or if I've done, 3 days of running and I was like, you know what, I really need to do some deadlifts. I was like, okay, cool, go into the gym and just lift as heavy as I can. And it's kind of just what floats my boat at the time. Some people are really specific and they just want to get strong and that's their mindset year round. That's cool. But that has never been like, that fires me up. I think maybe I get bored easily, or I get bored easily. So I want to try something new. I want to add something new to the program. But like, for instance, with high rocks, I'd probably like to do like a 12 or 16 week lead up and see how good I could get at it. But I would probably after that not really want to do that again. I'd want to try something else.
The mindset piece, I think, is so critical for me, like observing my own training. There's some days you go into the gym and you're like, all right, I've got an event coming up. Maybe it's a more cardio endurance focused event. So
yep.
I'm going to do some erg work. I'm going to do some calories. I'm going to get on the assault runner. And you walk in and just like, I cannot find the strength within me to commit to the workout I had planned. And so you end up doing a strength focused workout. But it's like that mental awareness and the mindfulness to sort of recognize in that moment, my capacity for one particular exercise and activity is low. My capacity for another one is actually quite reasonable. And so you kind of swap and change. And it sounds like that's sort of similar to where you're going or how you manage it. Let's say, for instance, let's say you've got like a high rocks coming up in a month's time. And then 2 months after that, you've got a CrossFit event, which is probably the other way around. You probably got Torian in a month or 2 months, and then you got high rocks after that. So would you cram, let's say, your CrossFit focused workouts leading up to the games or to regionals, and then after that you sort of switch gears and then cram?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
100% right. Like I would, you're so right. It's cramming for what's coming up, and then it's cramming for the next thing.
Just like study block.
And that's very atypical. Like, that's not what you would do if you wanted to be the best CrossFitter in the world. You'd have to stick to a stringent protocol, and that's what you do, and that's what's shown to prove results. So if I want to be the best CrossFitter, that's exactly how I'd do it. But I had a really good point then. I'm trying to remember what I was going to say about that. But yeah, you're right. It's all about cramming, but it's like also what about floats your boat? Like, if you walk into the gym and you're just like,
the mindset, the enthusiasm.
Yeah. And when the goal was to be the best CrossFitter in the world, that was my goal. I used to do the things I didn't want to do all the time. But then, it gets to the point where your priorities start to change. And when your goal is not to be the best CrossFitter in the world and it's to just have a good time, you will then, you might go for a surf instead of going into the gym instead. And then you could be okay with doing that. And that's kind of where I'm at. But I still look at events that I would like to do and be like, oh, I'd fire up for that. I'd fire up and, commit some time and, maybe do some sessions I don't particularly want to do to feel confident walking into that event, because I want the end result of what that event's going to give me. And that could be 16-week high rocks block where you're running 40 to 50 Ks a week, and then you're making sure you can lunge well without cramping and you can do all the rest of it. But then again, after that, I have a good feeling. I know myself well enough that I probably would want to go do something else. I love touch footy. I would actually love to just spend a season getting really good at touch footy. Don't know why. Like 33, I'm not going to play an Australian team or anything like that, but I'd love to get really good at touch. But one other sports that I would like to do, and I've always had this eagerness to have a crack at it, is combat sports. I'd always like to have a go at jiu-jitsu and maybe a bit of MMA. Add in a bit of kickboxing and see how I go there. But not going to be a world champion, but just for something different. Like, how can
personal enjoyment?
Yeah, enjoyment, like something fresh, like learning something new and interesting, or like getting absolutely schooled in something. Be like, oh, cool, there's improvement to be made here. If I commit to this time, can I overcome my inability to be good at this right now? And it's just constantly, like with CrossFit training, it was like, okay, if I do a strength block, how much stronger can I get? If I do a running block, how much better at running can I get? If I train jiu-jitsu, how much better at jiu-jitsu can I get? And I can measure that against other people that are in the sport already. And if I go in and I get absolutely towed by someone, I remember doing this in the CrossFit gym. I remember I walked into the gym 21st of January 2011, and I remember doing this workout. And the people that absolutely dominated me in this workout, I still remember their faces. I remember within like
scarred into your mind.
Yeah, because it hung me up. And I just remember being like, okay, that's not going to happen again. And then it did happen a couple more times. But my mindset was, I need to get good at this because this can't be a thing. And then over the course of like 3 months, 4 months, then I was like winning all these workouts. And I was like, okay, what I put into play has resulted in this result, and that's the result that I wanted. It's almost like it's a known outcome, but you have to work towards the known outcome, and that's fulfilling. That's like a cool feeling to put effort into something, see results, and I'm very results driven. So if I walk into I don't even know what you call them, jiu-jitsu gym, whatever they may be, dojo, and I get tapped out like 10 times by someone who's, I don't even know the belts, but someone on a, low belt or just an intermediate person. And then I can come back and accelerate the progress and then start winning some bouts like in a very short period of time. That's fulfilling for me to be like, okay, well, I started here and now I'm here and I did it in a short period of time. And showing myself I can get good at things quickly. I like that.
Tangible, visible progress.
Yeah, I love it. Like that fires me up. I really enjoy that part of my life, and that's just one part of my life. But I also try and put that into business as well, and try and put it into other things. That I'm just like, okay, if I put effort in and around here, what's my growth look like, and how can I speed up my growth? And whilst I'm making these growth changes, am I enjoying the process of these growth changes too, and not just being like end result, end result, end result.
Get me to the outcome.
Sometimes I get caught up in the end result and the outcome, and I kind of miss the fun of the. As I get older, I get better at it, but miss the fun of the journey. But these days, I've always been fairly fairly conscious of the journey process. It has to be enjoyable to a degree. There has to be some times where you hate it. There has to be some times where you really love it. So
it's definitely a balance, because like you hear these axioms and these like totalities of like, oh, it's all about the journey and the outcome doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Or the inverse of that quite often in our younger years when we're being pushed towards education and growth as a sort of adolescent. It's like, you've got to do this because that's what's important, the piece of paper at the end of the journey.
Yeah.
And it's always a balance. It's you've got to find something that is meaningful for you, you know, on the way through, but also gets you to a place that you're happy to be. It's never one or the other. And I think the growth mindset that you were sort of talking about is something that spawns from quite often the other side of a growth mindset is this recognition of like, I'm not good enough here,
Yep.
or like I could be better. It's a recognition of maybe incompetence or invalidation or insecurity. But the response is, instead of going internally and becoming maybe a victim of that situation, you go and you face the challenge and you say, how do I get better at this? How do I improve? How do I measure that improvement in a meaningful way? And then can I attach some form of like joy and meaning to that process?
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly what fires me up about doing sports that I haven't tried yet, that I look at and think, I think I could get into that, and I think I could do well, and I think I could create some cool memories doing that. That's where I kind of see the MMA side of things coming out in me, because competitive requires fitness, requires spatial awareness, requires all these things that I kind of already have part of. Never have I done anything like that before, but it's something that, you know, I have a platform that could build on, but then it's something completely new at the same time. So foundations are there, but skill is not there at all, and that's appealing to me to try and get good at. Don't really know why. Maybe I'll just absolutely hate getting punched in the face. I'll be like, screw this. But I
don't think many people like getting punched in the face.
Yeah,
it's probably a few.
But I think if I did try it and I enjoyed it, I'd run with it for a handful of years. And if I tried it and didn't enjoy it, maybe I'd try somewhere else or try something different or try a different type of sport. But for me, at the minute, it's just about trying as many different things and getting use out of the body that I've got, and having a new experience. I'm loving it. Maybe
that's the next evolution of the hybrid athlete, right? It's the triathlon, CrossFit, high rocks, jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Like how good are you when you put up against somebody else, like physically, rather than just like, that's individual physical aspects, skill acquisition, VO2, technique. What happens when you have to actually go against someone, face to face? Different story.
What happens when you've got to do 30 calories on an assault bike, 30 toes to rings, and then a 2-minute round against the next guy?
Yeah.
And just not get knocked out.
Exactly. I like that.
Someone has to figure out how to make this work. Yeah. CrossFit and MMA in one event.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty rad. Do you pace it and give the guy at the end time to break, or do you take your time, or do you get through it really quickly? Yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, it's weird. Like, we love a freak show, right? As much as we build our sports to be very competitive and even and weight division, like, we also absolutely love watching something that is just totally spastic. Just like two people who should not be in the ring together going at it and being like,
look at exactly what's been happening the last 2 years in the boxing and mixed martial
arts.
Paul
and Mike Tyson. Dude, what is going on?
What is going on here? That's exactly. It's been on the top of my mind for a couple of weeks. Yeah. Just like, yeah, people love it. Like, it sells. Freak show sells, and it's just like strange.
We've got this thing coming up now. The enhanced games. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I have heard about this.
I'm on board for it because
I'll watch for sure.
100%. Like, it doesn't take a genius to know that performance enhancing drugs are ubiquitous. Like, they're used everywhere. There's someone in every gym probably selling, if not multiple people using. And like, you do you, right? You want to, make those choices and get those outcomes. That's fine. But a lot of the substances and products that people are using are actually quite dated.
Yeah.
There hasn't been much innovation in the space because it's been illegal. It's black market. And so we actually don't really know what high quality, low risk compounds exist or could be created out there to build the ultimate physique, the ultimate strength, the ultimate performance.
Yeah.
And now someone's actually said,
I'll run it.
Let's figure that out.
Yeah. Well, hey,
I'm about it.
I'm freaking excited for it. And hopefully what I think it could do is like, not only would we get to see hopefully world records be broken, which would be insane to watch, because people can do what they want to do and not have to try and hide it. But it hopefully gives people a platform that do want to do it, a place to go,
pathway.
and the people that don't want to gives them a better playing field to compete evenly on. So maybe solving a bunch of problems.
Well, and doping exists like throughout all levels of pretty much all sports, right? And I remember hearing a while back I don't know who quoted it, but someone sort of said, it's not about who's taking something, it's about who's taking the stuff that they can't test for.
Yeah.
And, you know, that whole documentary Icarus was a great example of that. Like, who knows how long that was really going on for.
Yeah.
So bifurcating the industry to being people who are like, okay, you're strictly taking, you know, substances that or supplements that we deem to be appropriate and non-overly performance enhancing, versus the gates are open, all bets are off.
Yeah.
Find what you can find. Like,
interesting. I'm interested.
I'm about it.
I'm interested. I want to see what people can do for sure. Like, I know who was the fella, Australian swimmer, Magnussen.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
Not Kevin Magnussen. No, he's the F1 driver. Yes, I do know
what
the
I'm
guy
talking
you're
about. I
talking
saw him on the news, and he was like, "I'm all for it. Going to get paid big bucks to do it. It's a pathway after, you know, tested sport for me. I'm going to have a crack and getting $1 million to do it."
It can extend the life of your career by 3 or 4 years, because now you're able to use all these compounds that are going to keep you at your peak, or maybe even allow you to surpass that.
It's interesting to see. I'll be viewing. I'll be viewing for sure.
I'll be watching.
Yeah, I'm excited to see some records be broken. I think that's cool. Good on them.
I think just to switch back to what you're saying before about, you know, the mindset in the gym and being able to sort of be aware of how you're feeling, have multiple disciplines, have multiple avenues for training. I think that's something that sort of hamstrings a lot of people who don't have the foundations and the background and the experience that you have. You go to the gym, you do the same workout you did last week, which was the same one you did the week before. You're getting kind of mentally fatigued. You don't know how to sort of break out of this new pattern. Maybe you don't have the capacity in your gym to switch to a different class or, you know, get a new experience. And so it's really about the exercises and the movements that limit you in terms of knowing how you can get a new experience at gym whilst also still training for your goals.
Yeah.
And there's really like probably 3 main categories for training. It's like competing and training to improve and get a high level output. You've got your active recovery. So what are you doing on your rest days to sort of keep you at, you know, a good level? And then longevity. What are you sort of doing to maintain your health quality, movement and strength over time?
Yep.
As someone who's an absolute expert in this, what would be your top 3 movements or exercises for those 3 categories? So starting out with competition and training to build high level output, if I had to give you 3 exercises only, what would they be?
Ooh, okay. So competition training, I would say 3 exercises.
Let's go. You can do exercises, but I'll give you one workout. So for instance, like if you say burpees are super high ROI, but then there's also like a movement or a workout rather that.
Okay, cool. I'll give you 3 movements that I think would help you build really high quality output. Swimming.
Interesting.
Yep.
That's unexpected.
Swimming for sure. I would give, like, I love running. I love running more than I like swimming, but swimming, if I wanted to build some serious capacity, that would be a great option, to give you a bit of everything. Then I'm trying to think of a weightlifting movement that would be the number 1. I would say you'd have to get, if you did this, you'd be good at most other weightlifting movements, is a thruster. You should thruster. That'll help with a bit of everything. And then the other thing that I would suggest is sprinting. Sprinting. So sprinting, moderate distance swimming, and doing thrusters. Those 3 things combined, if you just did those, you would be better than average at most.
Thrusters absolutely destroy you.
Yeah. So I would say
them.
Yeah, I'd say a thruster just because leg strength, core stability, overhead pressing strength. You need all of those things. Whereas you just give you a deadlift, you'll get a strong posterior chain and not much else. You give you a squat, your lower body will be strong, but your upper body will be weak. I've seen heaps of people with good, strong legs, but average pressing. But if you wanted to be as close to Batman as possible, you need a thruster. I wouldn't give you a clean and jerk because you're kind of cutting portions of movements that you wouldn't do in daily life. But the swimming at, probably the 200 meter mark, 200 to 400 meter mark would be about the distance you'd want to do. The sprinting would be up to 120, 150, and anything lower than that. And then, thrusters at lightweight, moderate weight, heavy weight across different types of sets and reps. That would be the three things for performance.
Active recovery. So on your days off that you're trying to stay primed but also not push it, what are your top three?
You would definitely do excluding sleep.
Excluding sleep.
Okay. Active recovery days.
We're just assuming here that everyone has perfect sleep. They get their 7 to 8 hours. Sensible humans out there who are not,
number one.
Grinding.
Number one, sauna. Definitely. Number one is sauna. Number two, to help with immune function, ice bath. Number three, I'm going to combine two together, but one would be breath work, but the other one would be, for me, going and doing something. Like for me, it's surfing. I'd love just to get out in the water and go for a surf and do some breath work whilst I'm surfing. But for other people, that could be a hike to a cool waterfall, or that could be a slow bike ride, but some type of active movement that fills your cup mentally. It's like sitting out in the water and going for a wave makes me mentally feel good. Some people it's yoga, some people it's this or that. But if you wanted to put in some absolute bangers, sauna's number one, ice bath number two, and I would interchange a surf for like a float session in a float tank. I love a float tank. I love being enclosed and escaping the phone. So something like that would also be very, very good. For other people, it could be even interchanging that with a massage. But, out of all the things that I've done, sauna, ice bath, cold shower, whatever it may be, they're the ones.
And I really love that you put something that's more like joy, soul,
joy,
personal, fulfillment in there, because it's so easy to get caught up. Like even the way I framed the question and my expectations for the answers were around like, what are the movements? Like what are the secrets? And it's like, just do something that makes you feel happy.
Yeah.
And that's like so overlooked.
And all those three things, surfing, ice bath and sauna, all promote positive chemicals to help make you feel more happy.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also do them with people so you can share the experience. That's another positive. So you can be social at the same time. That has enormous effects on how fast you recover as well that people probably don't look into.
Sauna chats. Sauna chats are insane.
Yeah, it's all those three things are like you could go and, some people might love a red light therapy session, or they might love a hyperbaric chamber session, or they might like a cupping session or dry needling, or, whatever it may be, or Tai Chi or whatever it is. But those three things, fill your cup with one thing and then the other two, hot and cold for sure. But that's also taking into consideration that you're super hydrated and you're getting beautiful sleep.
Everyone gets perfect sleep, right?
Yeah, everybody.
For sure. I want to come back to the cold plunge in a moment, but the third one was longevity.
Well, pretty much the same stuff, to be honest. You took exercises for longevity?
Yeah, let's narrow that one down to exercises, because to sort of cover, a broader spectrum, let's say you're listening to this and you're not competing, you're not working towards any, competition or high level goals, and you're just trying to stay healthy, stay mobile.
Okay, cool. It's interesting. The reason why I started my supplement brand, Phyba, was because the things that I believed were going to help people perform at a high level on the competition floor were the same things that were going to allow people to live a long time, happily and healthily. So they were exercise, lifting weights, sleeping well, doing everything at a good capacity that was going to help longevity at the same time. So I was like, if you want to be a high performer, you need to make sure your mitochondria is healthy. You need to make sure your gut is healthy. You need to make sure your immune system's healthy. You're drinking quality water. And all these things go down the pathway of longevity too. So my answer for the longevity aspect, well, the activities, it would be sauna and ice bath. Same again for recovery. And the other thing for longevity is exercise in general. Whatever that exercise is, that is the thing. If you're a walker, you're a walker. If you're a yoga partaker, you do yoga. If you are a meditator, you do that. But I think you need to get your heart rate up. I should say heart rate up, lifting weights. Those exercise, hot and cold, and you have good sleep, like you are leagues far advanced everybody else. The other things that I think you could do are making sure you have a diverse diet, making sure that you are spending quality time and you have some really key dope friends that make you feel good and you have good connections with them. If you do all those things and you're getting sunlight on a regular basis, you're doing all those things, you'll live a long time. You're not drinking alcohol, you're not smoking cigarettes, you don't have any substance abuse, all that type of stuff. But if your sleep is on point, you're exercising in a way that makes you feel good and happy, you're doing hot and colds as a bonus. I think the hot and colds help a lot. And then you're eating a diverse diet that are giving you all the essential nutrients to help keep your cells in check, like help keep the mitochondria healthy. You're going to do great. The only time that you have the outliers is when you have a genetic defect or something like that. But if you're doing those things, I think even to the degree that, how they say you can't out-train a bad diet and you can't out-train poor sleep, I feel like the exercise is highly underrated in terms of what they can do to help combat poor sleep, poor diet, all those types of things. I think it's underrated.
It's kind of hard to out-eat or out-sleep no exercise.
I do agree. Like, that's the way I feel about it. I've always felt about it like that. And I think that we put a big emphasis on doing, the nutrition and the sleep and all that stuff. And I think that's great. You must do that. But the exercise itself I think that keeps you young, keeps you strong. It keeps you autonomous. And I think it goes a long way to keeping you living a long time, and not just like lifespan, but health span. Like, how good are we in the last 2 or 3 years of our life? Are we bedridden and not able to move, or are we still tending to the gardens the day that we pass away? That's kind of how I would like to be,
They all work together, right? Like your exercise helps you sleep. Your sleep helps your exercise. Your diet enhances both. When you've slept well and not eaten 20 minutes before you went to bed and had a tub of ice cream for dessert, your sleep's going to be better.
Yeah.
And then when you train hard, you're going to feel like you want more nourishing food, because like we've all been there where you go for a big workout, you just want to get something in, and you stop by Macca's on the way home and pick up something, and then 10 minutes after you're like, I feel so much worse.
Yeah.
Like I feel gross.
Yeah.
When you've had that bad meal that it actually affects your mood and your body, whereas you recognize eating the better quality food is going to make you feel better, and it carries over. It's
an ecosystem. It's an ecosystem that works in balance, and you can be biased towards something that, your body just draws you towards. You want to work out more and get a little bit less sleep. It's okay. You want to sleep a bit more and work out a little bit less. That's okay. But they're all things that are going to help you live a long time and stay healthy and happy. But if you're of the mindset that, diet doesn't matter at all and sleep doesn't matter at all, you will come across some disadvantages. Like, you're not going to be the absolute best you can be. And I just know that if I eat poorly, I think terribly, I have less motivation, and then once that goes out the window, I'm less likely to want to spend time with my loved ones and friends. I'm less likely to do well with the business or make better decisions. I'm less likely to want to go to the gym because I feel like shit. So I just know that it all requires a baseline of competency across the board to make everything else flourish. And if one thing drops terribly, everything else drops. But if they all sit at a baseline of, maybe for some people it's the 80-20 rule. Some people it's like the 90-10. Some people just don't like having anything off at all. And you just have to figure out where it is and then keep yourself accountable to that boundary and say, hey, here's my boundary. I know that I operate the best. I feel like I'm the best version of myself every day I wake up and I train first thing. Just do that. And if, you don't have to be like, oh, I must have my coffee 90 minutes after I wake up. Some people, feel great by doing that. Do that. If that floats your boat, do it. If it doesn't, I get up and have my coffee within like 15 minutes of waking up. That's the way I like to do it. Love it. Maybe I could be slightly more optimized if I didn't, but I also then have to sacrifice having a coffee and sitting and doing things that I like to do before I train first thing in the morning, and I'm not prepared to do that. So I think it's about finding your balance and your boundaries and sticking within those boundaries.
Man, that's speaking so much to my soul right now, because I got in a pretty big rut at the beginning of this year. Injury, coming off the back of a pretty full calendar and a big party season at the back end of last year, and I just was not myself, and I wasn't mindful and in tune and aware enough to recognize that I was deficient in those levels. There were those kind of lines in the sand across those areas that you mentioned that for me I needed to operate at that high level, and I was deficient across the board, but I was probably so deficient that I wasn't able to, my indicators on those lines that were saying, hey, you're in debt here and you need to put some deposits in these areas to get you back to where you need to be, refill your batteries. I wasn't clearly seeing those signals, and coming out of that now and sort of getting back on track has made me sort of so much more in tune and aware of those things. You mentioned Phyba, and I wanted to ask you, what made you want to start a protein company in a market that feels so saturated with protein?
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I think I have always been interested in nutrition. I've always been interested in performance. I've always been interested in supplementation and these superfood herbal compounds that can help the body be a bit more efficient, or help cleanse the blood, or help increase longevity and cellular health. I've always been interested in seeing what the world has to offer in terms of that, and not just locally grown, but what did traditional Chinese medicine recommend back in the day, and what ailments do we have that we can cure by nature, and if they can help us cure something, can they help us increase VO2? Can they help us increase lactic threshold? Are we missing something? Is there simple things that help us just be a bit more efficient day to day? Instead of going and eating 300 grams of tofu, can I have a protein shake, and can I also make that just as good, if not better, by adding some cool fermented aloe vera? I was just interested in the food science and what that food science could do to biology, and I think that's where it kind of came from. And then lots of people were asking me, where do you get your protein as a plant-based athlete? Where do you get this and where do you get that? And I was like, man, well, I love mushrooms and I love sprouts and I love getting all these things because they make me feel good, they make me operate well. I feel more clear-minded. I just was drawn to it more so than I would say drawn to being a zoologist. That didn't fire me up as much. Thought about it for a day or two when I was 18 and thought nothing of it. But then when I thought supplements are really cool. There's a market for it. I'm in the space already. I don't love the stuff that is available readily to me here in Australia. I wanted to create my own that I could make my own mark with, and then also try and give people an option that they knew was coming from a reputable source who's already out in the public, who I put my name behind every single product, and we can curate them in a way that speaks my language. It's some people might just want excessive pumps to go into the gym and get super jacked. I want to help people operate well at the cellular level for a long time, and if we can help the gut and the cells operate really, really well, we're going to be better in everyday life and an adventure and on the competition floor. It's all the same stuff. It's just how much do you want to turbocharge it? How much do you want to put your foot on the gas? People that want to be healthy and live a long time just essentially need to do the same things that high-level athletes do, healthy high-level athletes do, just to a lesser degree. They're just not doing the the 5x500 meter runs around the track. They might be just, going and running with the, morning running crew that do the 5K park runs. That could be the thing. It's just dialing it down just slightly, but all the essential foundations are the same. So for me, it was like, okay, well, why do we have, these supplements over here, the longevity crew that do the longevity supplements, and then we have the bodybuilding crew that do, these supplements. Like, what does an athlete look for that wants high level functional performance, and how does that differ from, the mum or the dad at home, and how does that differ from the teenager, and how does that differ? It's like, we all want to operate well functionally. We all, like, as a baseline, just for being autonomous in our daily life. They were the same things. I was like, you can take these supplements if you're an athlete. You can take these supplements if you're an everyday weekend warrior. Doesn't matter. It's the same stuff. Like, Shazandra is going to be good for you regardless. Even if you're a bodybuilder, Shazandra will be good for you. Or a fermented aloe vera will be good for your gut microbiome. All these things. I was like, okay, we just need to get this out there. We need to create some stuff that people are going to absolutely love and fall in love with, and it's going to be good for them long term. It's not something that you have to only use for your athletic career because it actually has a detrimental effect long term. That was the key. Nothing should be detrimental long term. Why the fuck are you doing it? Like, that's not the key. The key is have it now to help your cells now. That'll help your cells in 50 years time too. Like, these things will help you live a long time, but also turbocharge the way that you operate right now too. That's kind of the key. Acute and chronic.
I love that approach to like anything really. It's sort of, the lowest possible contraindications and risk profile, the minimum effective dose, and something that's going to have wide, broad-ranging synergistic benefits rather than just having this sort of like narrow, specifically targeted thing that's probably going to help out in one area, but is then going to wreck and wreak havoc across the rest of your system.
Nailed it. That's exactly right. I wish I said it like that.
And no, your answer was great. I mean, you see how much passion and love you have for nutrition and for, gut health, and, like so many people that you run into, and so why'd you start this brand? Oh, I saw a great opportunity and I was kind of interested in this, and so I went for it. And it's like, yeah, I just watched you open up in this sort of passionate way that shows so much interest and love for the product you're making. And I've seen firsthand the power of, like, I wanted to ask you a little bit about gut matrix.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, like people say that the gut is the second brain. And I would argue that it's actually the first brain, because we were a stomach before we were anything that had a brain.
Yeah.
And so you've got this very well-crafted compound inside of your protein, inside of some of your other products, Laura Fuel, I believe.
Yeah.
And I've watched that change someone's life in terms of their gut health.
Yep.
What is gut matrix, and what's the secret sauce in there?
Yeah, totally. So every product, this is the other little aspect that we wanted to gear also gut health and high performance and longevity and immune function. But it was also to be completely natural. So we didn't want to add anything synthetic, nothing artificial, no harsh fillers and things that just make up space inside a box. We wanted it to be natural ingredients that are just derived from all the best places from all around the world. And in saying that, gut matrix is essentially, so most people have heard of prebiotics. Essentially, a prebiotic is a prebiotic fiber that your gut bacteria feasts on to feed itself, but then also they create then things called postbiotics. Now, those gut bacteria, or those beneficial bacteria, called probiotics. So essentially what they do is they help create compounds that are beneficial to the host. So you take a probiotic after you have a run of antibiotics, because they pretty much just wipe out every bit of bacteria, good and bad. And then you want to replenish. The way that we like to look at it is we like to replenish. Whether we replenish or not is a different story. They may be transient, they may come in, they may stay a while, they may go, they may just go straight through. But in the process of putting those probiotics or those beneficial bacteria back into the gut, we need to feed them. And then when we feed them the prebiotic fibers, they create these cool postbiotic compounds. And those postbiotic compounds could be short-chain fatty acids, they could be antioxidants, they could be vitamins, they could be minerals, they could be things that help or be a benefit to the host, which is you. So the whole idea behind Gut Matrix was not to just give you an off-the-shelf digestive enzyme to break down your protein, or not just to give you a carbohydrate amylase to help break down carbohydrates, but to give you a fermented prebiotic fiber with specific strains of probiotics that have been shown to create health benefits within the host, plus taking all of those postbiotic compounds that we may or may not create ourselves if we don't have that gut bacteria. So let's just look at it. So you're collecting the prebiotic, the probiotic, and the postbiotic material. That is Gut Matrix. Putting it inside a protein that is fermented with other plant material to allow us to digest the plant protein better. And in doing so, you're also giving your gut potential short-chain fatty acids that it may not produce to a high quantity, or if any, if you don't have the right gut bacteria. So let's say your mother gives you, and I think most of the gut bacteria you get comes from your mum. And if your mum has a really broad range of gut bacteria when she's super healthy, she's got a diverse gut microbiome, which has been shown to be a key pillar of predicting longevity, very diverse gut microbiome. Let's say you're born with 2,500 gut species of microbes inside the gut, and you run a course of antibiotics as a kid, and you're chronically on these antibiotics for whatever reason, whether prescribed willy-nilly or you actually do need them, something happens, whatever it may be, and you bring that gut bacteria down to 750. Now you only have 750 species producing particular types of postbiotics, short-chain fatty acids, enzymes, everything else. So you're now limited into what you can create. Now that limitation may have an effect on the types of gene expression you might have. You might be producing particular compounds that help activate particular genes that are health benefit to you. They might be activating particular genes that are a negative effect to you. And your aim of the game is to keep that gut microbiome as diverse as we possibly can. It's kind of like a desert and a rainforest. Keep it diverse. And then when things arise inside the body, whether you're combating a disease or you're putting yourself under stress in the gym, and your body's like, holy, we need to deal with this stress, you can then rely upon particular postbiotic compounds that your body knows, hey, we need to generate more of this because we are dealing with this stress, and this compound helps us activate this gene, which helps us combat that stress and helps us build more mitochondria, or helps us build more muscle fibers to deal with the weight training, or helps us build more alveoli in the lungs because we're dealing with some crazy high CO2, or we're trying to churn out more oxygen. But if we have a low diversity, we don't have the options to do that as much. So the whole key here is to create diversity, and that's what Gut Matrix helps us to do.
Yeah, I love the analogy of like the rainforest versus the desert. And to build on that, I think when we see big monocultures of agriculture pop up, they clear this wide swaths of rainforest, and then they just put like bananas or corn or whatever. Like you see from space this big lush green patch, and you go, oh, look, it's green. It must be great, environmentally sound. And then you zoom in and you see just this one species of plant that's often very heavily farmed and pesticided, and like the soil quality is destroyed. The amount of flora and fauna that used to exist there is dramatically diminished. And we know that that's actually not good for the environment, almost sometimes worse than just wiping it out and letting it grow back fresh, which would take a lot of time. But you still get that diversity. When you're using just like, let's say a prebiotic or a probiotic that you buy off the shelf or from the jar at your pharmacy, you're getting that single or sometimes, like a multi-strain, which is great, but it's still only going to be 10, 15 maybe strains if you're using like a big broad spectrum, and the dosage is going to be low. So I guess what you're saying is that Gut Matrix solves this problem by creating a broad spectrum, sort of full profile prebiotic, probiotic compound with postbiotics that are what your gut would usually create for you. If you need them, great. If you don't, there's no harm.
It'll just be used as fuel. They'll get chewed up and used by the microbes inside.
And that's also helping your body digest the protein as well, which is increasing the bioavailability of that supplement that you're putting in for your health.
Like those those probiotics, so that bacteria, they understand that for them to win, the body has to win because we're the host. And if they want to survive, we have to survive. So they will give us back things that we need. And we need protein, essentially, to create DNA, to create muscle, to create, new cells, everything. So they'll give us compounds to help us do those things. And they'll take something from us, but they'll give us something back. And the more diversity we can have there, the better it is for us for longevity, sports performance, gut health, combating just every random disease or virus that we come across. So the whole idea here was to create a compound. You can create many compounds like gut matrix. There's plenty of different gut species. Like there are thousands and thousands and thousands. I think it's up to I think they've catalogued maybe 60 odd thousand types of bacteria that could be beneficial. Most people have a particular set and they come and go. But one thing we do know is that the broader range of plant material in your weekly diet, the better your gut species looks inside the gut. The more broad it is, and it's just been shown to have positive outcomes for the host in terms of longevity and health span.
Eat the rainbow.
Essentially eat the rainbow. And the other cool thing about this too is if you do want to go out and you want to have a cheap meal, you want to celebrate with a bit of alcohol, these compounds that are inside the plant food help protect you against a lot of that stuff too. So if you are going to have a particularly not so healthy meal, but you do eat a good array of plant food, there are protective compounds in all that plant food to help combat having a good time, if that's what you see as a good time, So it's a benefit. It's a benefit, especially if you want to, the day and age that we live in. That's kind of the key. And that's kind of what we wanted to do with Phyba. We wanted to pull together all the best plant food from all around the world and get some insight into what, traditional Chinese medicine looked at, what Western medicine looked at, look at the fermented foods over the years, where are the best fermented foods coming from? What do they look like? What mineral pitch can we get from here? What flour can we get from there? And what types of compounds do they have? And how can we bring them together and create beautiful blends that are going to help people thrive and help really promote optimal gut health, which will help promote better cell function, which will help better athletic performance, which will help better longevity. They just all come together.
All connected.
Yeah, they're all connected. So that's what we kind of do. That's kind of sits at the crux of Phyba.
One of the things you mentioned about longevity a couple of times was cold plunge.
Yeah.
And cold plunge has definitely become a pretty hot topic.
Yeah.
There is, obviously the Wim Hof movement, and there's been a few people who've carried on his sort of legacy and built on that. And there's also now become a few people who are quite critical of the way in which cold exposure is being used a daily basis. What's your thoughts on this? What's your cold plunge routine or exposure routine?
So typically, I've got a cold plunge at home, and I only ever get in there for about 60 seconds at a time. So I jump in, get in, hold for 60 seconds, maybe 90 seconds. Don't typically go longer than that unless I'm going to a cold plunge facility to do something with friends, like I mentioned before. Where I'll happily sit in the cold plunge for 6 or 7 minutes. But at home, jump in, get cold, get a shiver. As soon as I get a shiver, jump out. It's done. And some days it's 45 seconds, some days it's 90. And I don't take it to the degree that it is a absolute pain and punish. So if I miss a day, it's not the end of the world. If I do it 5 days in a week or 6 days in a week, great. There are periods of time where I won't do it for a whole week. And I'll be like, I haven't plunged. Why haven't I plunged? But I don't hold it against myself or think that I've, it's an L for the day if I don't plunge. But I think if it fits into a routine and you can make it fit into a routine, even just a cold shower, I think it has great positive effects on the way that we modulate immune system function, the way that we deal with inflammation, even just the ability to do something that sucks for 2 minutes. I think a lot of people are just way too comfy And just by getting out and getting really, really cold for just 60 seconds just builds a type of tolerance that you start getting good at saying yes to hard things on a regular basis, which some people just need to do. I need to do it myself. Like, I haven't plunged in a week, and I'm now probably going to go home and have a plunge because I know I love doing it, but I hate doing it, right? It's something that I know that's good for me, and I feel great when I do it. When I jump in, I was like, ugh, it's cold, but after 20 seconds, I feel like $1 million.
It's actually so wild that moment before a plunge where your monkey mind kicks in and you're like, I want to do this. And you start imagining how cold it's going to be, and you kind of feel it very viscerally in your legs, that first moment of entering. But also, and if you're very mindful of your thoughts in that time, you can really see this happen in real time. You know that literally 10 seconds, you can count to 10 and you'll be in the plunge pool, and all of this will be done. That initial phase of feeling cold is past. You're starting to get more comfortable. Your nerves are relaxing. Your breath is slowing. And it's just wild watching that sort of battle, that tug of war in your mind of like, I know this is good for me and I want to do it, versus the monkey mind, which is going, don't do it. Bitch out.
Yeah, bitch out. You don't want to do this.
You don't want to do this.
Do this later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
tomorrow.
Yeah.
I promise.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I started doing in the morning, and I did this for about maybe 6 or 7 weeks, is as soon as my alarm goes off at 4:20 in the morning, stop the alarm, walk straight out to the ice bath, rip the lid off, and it was like a race to get in.
Just get in.
Like, it was take it off, jump straight in. And then when my shoulders get down to my neck, I just foot in, straight down. My eyes are still asleep. Like, I've literally just woken up 20 seconds before it. Best ever. That's the best I ever experienced I had doing ice bath, because you don't think about it at all. It's not as cold. It actually does not feel as cold. You're still asleep. See, you kind of feel like you're almost in a dream, and it's not as bad. It's probably, let's say a regular ice bath is 9 out of 10 bad. It's more like a 5. And if I was to do it on a regular basis, I was going to recommend something for someone, if you can do that, that's the way to do it. Do it while you're still sleepy and you're unable to make rational decisions.
I was about to say, that doesn't sound safe, but I think I think the inability to make rational decisions is generally a good time to sort of like game your own conscience. It
was the best, and I felt like it was, number one, less cold, and it was like ripping the Band-Aid off. Mm-hmm. It's exactly like that. It just feels better when you do it quick. It's like that'd be my advice. And
you feel so much better afterwards. Like the central nervous system and like mood regulation benefits you get from it. I mean, even if it's all placebo, which good. I'm all about, because if I can take a sugar pill and get the result that I want versus having to do something else, which is maybe more, risk prone.
Yeah.
I'll take the placebo. Thank you. It works.
For sure. Yeah. Just tell me it's going to do this for me and let me believe it.
Let me believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about like journey and outcome before. Like in this, I'm all about the outcome.
Yeah.
If it comes to like helping me live my life with no risk and no, very little downside other than maybe slipping and banging my shin on the tub on the way down.
Yeah.
Then like, let's do it.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. Yeah. I'm all in for that.
Well, mate, look, this has been a long time coming.
Yeah.
And you have been really, really supportive, and you've been an amazing springboard in getting this off the ground. I'm super grateful for you and very excited to watch Phyba grow and watch the next event that you're involved in. I think it's going to be some combination of running, lifting, and strangling someone on the ground.
Yeah,
so
more than likely. Well, look, I've had an absolute blast, and I'm so glad that you got to rip the Band-Aid off getting this done with me.
Thank you. It's been great.